have a look at the instrument summary function. So in our little sample show, I've just added a few more lanterns just so we've got something to show. And I've created a new sheet called overhead, same as the way I've created the other viewport earlier in the screencast on title blocks. There's just a viewport to show basic overhead rig basically, and I put it on a sheet of A3 with a little title block. So the next thing that's missing in this is obviously a key to the instruments, because you don't know what symbol is symbolizing what particular type of lantern. That's a really important part of information that you need on your sheets. Now you could draw your own by using, you know, a rectangle and then placing symbols and writing next to it what they are and so on. Now that's costs a lot of time, and B, if you're inserting them as instruments, it means that when you're later exporting bits of paperwork with instrument counts, the ones in your homemade key are going to be counted as well, so the numbers are skewed in terms of how many you've used and how many are still available. So I highly recommend that you use the instrument summary tool. So you just click on it, and then it inserts in a similar way to how you insert lighting instruments. The first click places it, and the next click, then you can rotate it, and the next click confirms the placement. Generally, I would have thought you'd probably want to go horizontal, but there you are. You have the option to put it on in all kinds of rotations. Now, right now, there are a lot of instruments on here that I'm not even using in this plan, and obviously it's not a great shape for my piece of paper. So there's a few bits we need to do here to make this work. In your instrument summary object info, there's a few options. You can hide your unused types. That obviously reduces it massively already because I've only used a few. I don't want to show the wattages because I don't think I need to for my overview. I do want to show the counts, and I want to show the comparison to the inventory. So this is a really useful little tool. If you're PLX, don't necessarily 100% rely on this, because sometimes it hasn't refreshed when a PDF was printed or something. So these numbers are not always correct. So it's worth double checking them. Of course, if you're working in the VectorWorks file, you can make sure you refresh it and then it will be correct. But it gives you a bit of an idea of what you've used and what you have still available in your inventory, provided you have actually set the inventory. You do that under Spotlight, Reports, Lighting Inventory Setup, and in here I've earlier put a few quantities in. If you're synchronizing with LightWrite, you can either use these numbers to push them into LightWrite, or you can define the inventory numbers in LightWrite and pull them into VectorWorks, or you can keep them independent just to confuse things more. But for now, I've just inserted them in here. So there are a few other things we can do though to make this look a bit better and actually make it fit on our sheet. You can play around with the width, and you can play around with item spacing and line distances and all those kinds of things to make it maybe slightly smaller, slightly bigger. But we can also have a look at a few other things. So if we're going into our build list dialog, you can see here there's a whole range of lanterns that aren't used. These blue ones are unused, and the black ones are used. Now, because I've ticked hide unused types, it's already taken them out. So we don't really need to play with that. But for example, if you were showing side lights on a sheet and you wanted to you didn't want to show how many rush bars are overhead, then you could use this place to use these arrows to take it out of your list. I'm going to leave it in the list at the moment, but you can also adapt the list. So for example, I've got lanterns here. I've got my zooms, 14 degree MFL, then I've got a Martin Atomic in the middle of it, and rush bars. So sometimes it might be nice to sort them by generics and by moving lights. In this case, actually what I want to do, so I want to move my Atomic down a bit. My computer is struggling a bit with the processing that needs to be done here. And what I want to do is, I would actually like it to move. Come on, there we go. Gonna do it? No. I'm going to choose some other elements, and I'm going to put a little break line in here. Which I'm going to make a divider, and then I'm going to take the rush bar and drag it to underneath. Come on. Come on. Oh, this is rather frustrating. It's not doing it. I don't think my computer can cope. Oh, it's moving it now over there. Okay. It can cope with moving the dividing line. Come on. Now let's see if we can move this rush to there. Yay. Okay. So now what I want to do is add a header. Put it in there. And then if I highlight this header and press on the options, I can actually put something in, and I'm going to call this one hires. And maybe I'll call this one, which is by default light, stock. So that way you've created a little division here. And the other thing I'm going to do is, while I'm highlighting hires, I'm going to put in a column break. So maybe I don't need this divider. And let's have a quick look at what happens now. Okay, that looks a bit better already. So now what we've done is we've created two columns. One's got the stock, one has the hires, and then we've got a typical symbol that tells us what the numbers and the writing means, and we have a summary of our color. I haven't put any color in it, so there's nothing there to show yet. So you can quickly sort of create a fairly neat looking instrument summary to kind of show whoever's reading this plan what's what, and also with a bit of help for yourself and your PLX, how many you've been using and how many are still available. There are a lot of possibilities in how you can edit this, and you can also place it in different places. So for example, this is obviously on this sheet here for this particular purpose, but if I wanted to, on my actual design layer, I could put another one just for myself to have handy. The only thing you watch out for if you're doing this, it's sort of quite handy to have the counts handy on the side of your drawing to every now and again have a look at what you've been using. It doesn't necessarily live update. So watch out that when you want to check what you've used and what you haven't in an instrument summary, before you check, scroll down and press refresh, just to make sure that it is actually taking your latest edits into account, and then these numbers will be accurate. As long as you haven't done you know, any kind of trial drawings on a layer that you're then turning off, because this will count everything on every layer, even if the layer is invisible. So another reason to get into the habit of a clean drawing style where you're not messing about with invisible layers that have sort of drafts on them, make sure you get rid of that stuff, because otherwise these tools won't work properly. So that's just a quick way to use the instrument layer in different ways. So what I would normally have is perhaps another sheet for your on-stage practicals with a sort of different instrument summary that doesn't have all the overhead stuff in it and just shows what the practicals are, and so on. So you can make these different on different sheets, different in different places. You could have several different ones on the one sheet if for some reason you wanted to. And that's how you use this instrument summary.